everybody. I'm Melanie Kovac. I am a Dropsmith founder, and here I am interviewing the wonderful Elizabeth Ashley. And I don't think she needs any introductions, but I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. We do quote her wonderful books, author of the Secret Healer books, and quite a lot of them actually. We quote her books on rose, spikenard, vetiver, cannabis, clary sage, helichrysum, mornada. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
Yeah, you did.
Sweet basil and holy basil. So I'm sure you have a few more because Ashley, Elizabeth, sorry, I call you Liz. Can I call you Liz on?
Yeah, but please call me Liz. I'm only Elizabeth if I'm in trouble.
I mean, can I call you that publicly?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, so Liz has over 20 years of professional experience in aromatherapy and has written many things. And I've also been participating in some of her events. She created very interesting things for aromatherapists. So do you want to add a little bit about and introduce yourself? I'm sure I missed many things.
How do I follow an introduction like that? How lovely of you. I'm really humbled. Thank you. So I'm Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer. And yeah, you did very well. You listed pretty much all of my essential oil monographs. I also have written some books about how to treat eczema, how to treat bronchitis, that kind of thing. And I guess my most famous book, The Complete Guide to Clinical Aromatherapy and the Essential Oils of the Physical Body, snappy title, but is one that is free to download on Amazon and all good ebook platforms, which is how most people come to know me. And yeah, I write about essential oils from the earliest possible things I can find out about the oils, or the plants, I should say. So I think with rose, the earliest reference I could find dated right back to Sumerian times.
Wow.
And then I like to look at all of the symbolic, the religious, the spiritual, the medicinal uses that I can find until we can find the evidence that we have now in the clinical labs. And so, yeah, I love my job. It's fascinating. And I'm currently working on Melissa at the moment, but that's a very, very, very long job.
I can imagine with all the research and the history about it. I was very fascinated to see that you would write a huge book on a single, essential oil, and it was really wonderful to go through them all. So, what inspired you to write your books? How did you get to do that?
It's quite a boring story, really, because it wasn't this like epiphany that happened. My mum and my stepdad were some of the first aromatherapists in the UK. So my mum was trained by Patricia Davis right back in the 1980s. So I've been surrounded by essential oils all of my life. In fact, some of these date back to that time, really for a long, long time. And yeah, I qualified in 1993, but working in a family business was really suffocating. So I went out of it for a while, but I continued to have this love for the essential oils. And then in 2008, I became pregnant with Dexter. He's my youngest. He's 15 years younger than his next sibling.
Oh, wow.
And it made me really poorly. I developed a blood clot in my lungs and I couldn't really speak, which led to me losing my job. And then my husband lost his job at the same time. And we were just like, well, what can we do to make some money? And I started doing ghostwriting. And the first book I wrote actually was about cheesecakes.
Well, that's useful as well.
I cheesecakes for a month while I was going, we're trying this recipe, we're trying this one. And then somebody happened to say to me, the only other job I've got is one, I need somebody who knows about essential oils. Do you know anybody? And I went, I know a bit. And so I did this piece of work, and this woman went, you know more than a bit about this. I've never known anybody be able to talk about essential oils like this. So I did quite a lot of work more for that lady. And then picked up lots more ghostwriting work and managed to write 7 Amazon #1 bestsellers for other people. And my friends were just getting furious with me. They were saying, you're getting paid 200 quid and you're putting people on #1 bestsellers. You need to do this for yourself. So yeah, so I sat down and I thought, well, how do I go about doing this? And I decided that I would write a big collection and release it all at once, which I did. So because I'd been in the background for a long time and I had been, in the forums and seen people, but they hadn't seen me because I couldn't use my name because I was a ghostwriter. Then suddenly I went smash and everybody was like, whoa, where'd she come from? Went straight to Amazon #1. I had 5 Amazon #1 bestsellers in the same week. And
wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's
and so, so in the free book, there's some monographs in there, short ones. And actually, my mum said to me, that's what you should write. You should write like that about everything you can find out about the essential oil. And I decided, yeah, that's what I'm going to try and do. So that's my passion. I think we live in a world that's extraordinary where you can make your job up. And I make my job up every single day, really.
Me too.
Yeah.
And then you end up asking yourself, what am I really doing?
What am I actually? Yeah, but you need galbanum for that, Melanie.
I hear you. And then it takes years sometimes to figure out what it is that we're actually doing. What we're doing is creating something from the heart, and then you don't know what's going to come out because it's truly yours. So it's so wonderful to read your books because you can see that in them, that all the work you put in there, and from the beginning, like you said, like you reference it dates so much in the back. How did you decide to contact me? Because you contacted me and I was honored.
Yeah.
So, how did you?
Well, I can't take any of the credit for that, I've got to tell you. So, in the same vein of this making our job up as we go along, a Hungarian aromatherapist called Gergely Halodi, I've done a lot of writing for him for his Hungarian magazine for a long time. And he and I have become great friends. I know a lot of people think we're married to each other because we spend so much time, but actually I'm married to somebody entirely different, but we are completely soul creatures, And we were chatting one day after Christmas and we both had pretty bad days. And I just said, I've had this idea. And I'd watched a summit. And I thought, I've been so excited by it. And it was all about aromatherapy and plant healing. And I started to watch it and it was just tripe. It was so rubbish. And I booked 4 days off work and I was like, there's nothing for me to learn here. So I said to Gergely, I've got this idea. I really think we should do one of these summits where it's for professional aromatherapists, where we can really talk about the stuff that we just get sick of not hearing anywhere, So it was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And in theory, it was a great idea, but it became this huge thing that got way out of control.
I know.
And we got 60 speakers in the end. And Gergely was very eager. He went to Botanica and he said, I'm going to get us some more speakers. And then he came back and went, there's this woman who's got this app that I saw at Botanica and it's just great. And I went, oh, yeah, okay then. I'll get in touch with her. So I was really surprised when you did, but I was not anywhere near as surprised as when I saw it working. I was like, my goodness, this is such a game changer. This will really transform the way that people do aromatherapy. And I have to say, I got off the phone to Gergely and I went, I am so excited. You've just got somebody really fantastic and she doesn't know how good she is.
Thank you so much.
I just loved it. Yeah, so I can't take the credit. It was completely Gergely's idea.
I do remember we met for that time, for the first time, and then I showed you and you're like, oh my God.
I was, and I still am. I have to say, that I don't use it every day. And I know that I should, but it's a bit like I'm supposed to be on a diet every day. I don't, But whenever I dip in, I think, I have this epiphany. I think, right, I'm going to look on Dropsmith. And we look on and I'm like, oh my goodness, this has opened such another big doorway for me. I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. How does it bring value to your work? Because it's such a, I have people from all over the world using it, people from all different backgrounds and work. So how does it help you? How does it bring value to your work?
Well, I think the exciting thing about that product in particular is there are so many different ways to use it, aren't there? For me, the thing that is magical is to call up a profile of an essential oil and look at the different suppliers and see how different the chemistry is, because that's a real constant reminder to me that the message of the plant, the learning of the plant, is always going to be the same because it's its sole pathway. But look how differently it works, and I think that's a really good anchor to keep my work on track all the time. But also, and this is something that I forget to do, and then I remind myself, and I think, you are bloody stupid, you've done this again. When, for example, with Melissa, call up the clinical databases, and I work with 6 different clinical databases, and it's, you've got 2,000 clinical trials. And with Melissa in particular, there's not actually that many for the essential oil.
Yes.
And then it's broken down that they're rats or they're mice and they're rabbits, and you could spend all day, and I have, and not actually have anything to show for it. Yeah. But then when I go to Dropsmith, and then when I go to Dropsmith, I'm like, somebody's done this work for me. It's like having a researcher sitting in the office for me, and I don't have to pay a massive salary. I mean, I could be paying somebody 25 grand a year for what you do for me. But that's not the same for everybody, obviously.
Well, yeah, I use it that way as well, and that's. I must admit, I don't like reading research. It's not my area of expertise. Also, somebody has to evaluate it, and that's why I do have somebody literally reading it for you and evaluating it if it's relevant or not. And for me, that was very important to share that with my colleagues, so that you can do your passion, which for you is writing your books or preparing your events. And do you have anything in store for us coming up?
Well, gosh, there's lots of things, but I mean, I have been writing this Melissa book for so long now, and I was aware that it was getting stagnant. So I've rearranged my work to really be able to focus on it. So I hope before the end of the year there will be a book on Melissa, which will be really transformative, I think, to a lot of women to read it, because the history relates to a world that's so unlike ours now, and that has been the hard part to do, to be able to write about a time that I don't belong to. Everything, we've got 2,000 years of history distorting our view, so that's been very difficult to do, and that's good. That's an exciting book, I think, when it's done. And also, Gagley and I have been working on 3 big projects, all related to the Tongue of the Trees cards. Don't know if anybody's seen these.
Yeah, show it.
So these are designed to bypass the conscious mind and talk to the unconscious mind. Can't see, that's it. It's a lovely chamomile card. So these are not really tarot cards. They're designed, I do use them to read forward into the future, which is odd. But they are designed to read backwards. So, for example, if somebody's been in pain for a long, long time, then how do we work out how the emotions have got involved in that? So the cards are very useful for that kind of thing, or even just drawing one card for your vibration for the day, And at the bottom of each of the pages in the booklet, there's like a key. I don't know if you can see down here, which talks about, so there's like a poem at the top that talks as if the plant is talking to you. So I was given poems by the plants to send forward of the healing imprints. But then also we look at the traditional Chinese medicine, we look at the Ayurvedic doshas, we look at the medical astrology, the chakras. So that's detailed at the bottom. So if people want to go more deeply into that, Gergely and I have made a big digital database called the Knowledge Base, where it's about 45 different videos that go deeply into the Chinese medicine, particularly into the medical astrology, because I don't think many people really know how to do that. And then finally, there is what's called the Recipe Hub for people who actually, like you, they can look at the chemistry and make their own recipes. This is digital recipes where they're done for them, and they can buy this database of recipes that align to the card. So, for example, today I'm videoing 10 recipes made with chamomile matricaria, with correct dilution, with the energetic imprint, so how does it affect you psychologically, safety data, contraindications of drugs, contraindications of conditions. So yeah, and that is on sale, but we've only really done a soft launch of the Recipe Hub. And so over the next few weeks, hopefully you'll notice that on Facebook you're like, I'm sick of seeing this thing now.
No, I have been noticing your videos, but I have to add to you to what you just said. With Dropsmith, I also wanted to do connecting things, you know, with a different idea, but that's why I used all these different books. And part of the idea with these interviews is so that people meet the authors and see why you're writing, where you're writing from, what is your background, you know, what is your viewpoint, and I wanted to gather all this together so our colleagues can have different perspectives on essential oils, just like you with your books. You're trying to collect as much data from everywhere and during the history as well. Well, here I'm doing a little bit different, of course, and quite different. But starting with the focusing on the research part, and then trying to find the bridge between the holistic view, like you said, to the research, and just bring it together and making more sense. The more information that we have, more effective we can be, more understanding we can have, and deeper we can go. And you know, it's a never-ending story, don't you think?
Yeah, and I do think that your app is more flexible for doing that, because you can literally click on something and change your viewpoint.
Yes.
So, for example, the way that your dots fall in the Hippocratic medicine, you know, that's perhaps not something anybody's ever done before, but as it falls into that, you're like, oh, okay, yes, I can see that lens in a different way now. And I think that I'm fascinated. This is one of the things that had come up in the Melissa book, really, that the ancient Greeks were always ritual-based, rituals, and they learned through oral tradition, and that's one of the reasons we don't have that much of their wisdom now. So other indigenous people have this oral tradition. But there's a very different way of learning when you go and do it for yourself, when you experience something different for yourself. So I think that to a certain extent there are limitations of my books, because all you're learning is my perspective. But the way that you set it up with the different ways of how the oils, you know, the different ways of the patterns of the oils and the vibrations of the oils and the archetypes of the oils, when you start to see an archetype like you can with the Hippocratic medicine, then you enter into a world of symbols, and the way that you feel and experience life is very different from sitting and reading it off somebody else. And I think it's fascinating, and it leads itself really well to it, I think.
Yes, for me it was interesting when I started putting chemistry into colors, and then, you know, like you said at the beginning, looking at one oil from different batches or different distillers, then you start to see patterns, and then you start to see, you know, people having saying the same things from different perspective, using oil for kind of the same things but coming from a different practice. And that's what I'm trying to do also with Dropsmith, to collect this data, to see where we come along, where we don't, where we need to maybe question and look further to. So it's great to stay in the community. I think we all do our part.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz. It was wonderful.
Thank
to
you.
talk to you. Do you have anything you want to say? Why would you recommend Dropsmith? Okay, just that one more thing. What's your, the reason you do it?
I think that it harks back to the last thing that I said, really, that you can sit in front of a computer and you can sit in front of a book forever and you could read for 20 years and not learn a single thing about essential oils. The only way that you learn is to sit with it and experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dropsmith gives you lots of different avenues to experience and lots of support to do that. So whether it be looking at the clinical research, whether it be giving you space to create your recipes and to look at other people's recipes. I mean, that's another thing that is missing in this day and age now. When I did my training, we had to be in a group all of the time and we could show each other our pot and go, look at the blue oil and how that's changed the orange oil. And you don't get that now because we're a lot internet based.
Yes.
So any tool that shows you what somebody else is doing and where you can have that sharing of knowledge is extremely helpful. You should be doing the journey on your own, but you should have support, and your tool is an excellent tool for support.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And
thank
your
you
time for everything, and I'm looking forward to our other projects together and your new book that we will be including if you let us.